February 10, 2019. A Living Love Story. Donna Steckall, Ph.D., and licensed Unity teacher. Given at Unity of Payson, Arizona.
Good morning again. My name is Donna Steckall, and the title of my message is A Living Love Story. So I want to tell a little story by Sandra Campbell called Love Thy Neighbor. The story is told of a farmer whose corn each year earned the winning prize of the state fair. One year, a reporter interviewed him and learned something interesting about how he grew his corn. The farmer told the reporter that he shared his prize-winning seed corn with his neighbors. When asked why, the farmer explained, "The wind picks up the pollen from the ripening corn and swirls it from field to field. If the neighbors grow inferior corn, cross-pollination will steadily degrade the quality of my corn. If I am to grow good corn, I must help my neighbors grow good corn." The same is true for the way we live our lives. If we wish to live in peace and harmony, we must help our neighbors do the same. As Unity co-founder Charles Fillmore wrote, "Love is the great harmonizer and healer. Love will bring your own to you, adjust all misunderstandings, and make your life and your affairs healthy, happy, harmonious, and free." That's from The Revealing Word. So if we choose to be happy, we must help others find happiness. If we desire to be loved, we must spread that love around. The topic of a living love story got me to thinking about a powerful group I had the pleasure of participating in. It was about 20 years ago at Anne Marie's place in Pine. She's not here today, we send her blessings, but she would know what I was talking about if she was here. It was called the Living Love Group, and Bill Raines from Unity of Mesa facilitated the group. It was a spiritual type of therapy group where everybody witnessed by sitting around in a circle. But the person going into the center of the circle was Bill, who would do some work, and everybody would just witness with love that work. The group process was based on Ken Kai's work, Handbook to Higher Consciousness. It was first published in 1972. Maybe some of you are familiar. A while ago. I just happened to have a copy of the book when I was thinking about it on my bookshelf, and it was Anne Marie's copy. Interesting. But, so I opened it when preparing for this talk. And on page 11, I found these wise words. "You add suffering to the world just as much when you take offense as when you give offense. You add suffering to this world just as much when you take offense as when you give offense." Something to think about, right? So as Gaia mentioned, I teach a process called Nonviolent Communication, or NVC for short, also known as the language of the heart. So I wanted to share some basic premises. Marshall Rosenberg developed this process, and that is a quote from him. Okay, so the basic premises are, one, conflict occurs at the level of action or strategy that people take to meet their needs. It does not occur at the level of needs, because all human beings have the same needs. And all strategies are attempts to meet needs. So that's two. Everything we do is an attempt to meet a need. Now, wouldn't it be good if we knew what that need was before we did what we were doing? Because then we'd be living in integrity. So this process is about becoming aware of our feelings and our needs in each moment by reflecting inward and allowing the needs to direct our actions organically. So another basic premise is that judgments are tragic expressions of needs. Tragic because when we need empathy the most, we speak in ways that push others away. You didn't do this right. What's wrong with you? When really, if we could hear our values and speak them instead, the other person could hear please instead of being pushed away. So learning the language involves compassionate translation, whether we are expressing or listening. So, oh, thank you. I don't have to use this. This up there. So it involves translation in 4 areas. The first one is evaluations are translated to our observations. Just the facts. So rather than saying to somebody, you are so rude, an observation would be, I heard you begin to speak before I had finished my sentence. Yeah, that's a fact. The second is translating our thoughts to our feelings. So, rather than people will think I am inadequate, I feel worried and need reassurance that I'll be able to keep up. So landing on the need allows us to move into action that's in harmony with the need. If we stay stuck in the judgment, we go into what I call the paralysis of analysis. We go in our head, round and around with judgment, and keep in the fight or flight response keeps getting activated when we stay in our emotion. But when we land on our knees, we can see our options, and we feel inspired and hopeful. So translating also involves changing demands to requests. Instead of, you really need to take the trash out. It's really bad in here. Would you be willing to take the trash out now? So a simple change of tone and make a question out of it. Would you be willing? Gives the other person a sense of choice. Now, if the person says no, how we react tells us if it was a demand or a request. If they say no and we say, if you loved me, you'd do it. Or if they say no and we say, you're just so lazy, then it was a demand. But if they say no and we give them respect for their choice, are you feeling tired and need to rest right now? That would be an empathic response. Then they're much likely to hear a request. And they might even just do it, even though they're tired, because at least they've been heard. If not, we can negotiate with them when they will do. So you can hear words that might sound critical or judgmental, without ever having to take them personally. And that was my point here, going back to Ken Kai's, who adds suffering to the world just as much when you take offense as when you give offense. So if we can hear somebody else's judgment as their needs, and somebody else's demands as their request, we won't ever have to take it personally. That's the language of the heart. So I went further in looking at Ken Kai's book, and he describes 7 stages of consciousness, and the love center is at stage 4. And he describes this in such a manner that I wanted to share it because I've experienced it. You know, mostly I've experienced it at Unity Village, just walking the grounds and thinking about all the concepts we were being taught. At this level, you're transcending subject-object relationships. You see yourself in everyone and everyone in yourself. I bet some of you in here have had that experience. Yes? It's a beautiful experience. You are beginning to love and accept everyone unconditionally, including yourself. Including yourself. And he goes further, and he says, you feel compassion toward those still involved in illusions of separateness. So, rather than us reacting as separate beings, we feel compassion for those who feel separate. So we know we're not separate. So it's a very competent, confident knowing and awareness that we bring to our experience. You accept them because where they are is perfect for their growth and also for yours. Also for yours. Okay, there's a mutuality in this. It's not just them, but it's you. It's not just you, but it's them. It's all of us in the right place at the right time. To see them as our teachers, showing us places where we still have growth to do. Shakti Gawain, in her book Living in the Light, often talks about our relationships as mirrors. And I know that when I talk to Neil about my dreams, sometimes his way of interpreting, he'll say, well, how are you that? Or how are you this person? Or how are you that object? So it's another way of being Italian. It's another way of seeing ourselves in everything. You know that feelings of isolation or separation have been created by emotional programming. Now, what is emotional programming? Times when we felt fear and we were powerless to do anything about it. And so that's emotional programming. So if something reminds us of a time like that, we'll go into that same fight or flight reaction if we're not aware and present to who we are and where we are and how we are. You realize that although our bodies and minds are different, in the realm of conscious awareness, we are all the same. Relationships are not characterized by demands, pressure, or fears, but rather a vibrant, totally here and now involvement. Now, this is where it gets a little metaphysical, and I really like it. And the optimal future is always generated by the non-expected, free-flowing present moment. Free-flowing, non-expected present moment. I think that's what we were talking about, Guy. And he said you have to live in the now. You acknowledge and you fulfill current obligations, but you relate to them consciously. And in the future, you make only those obligations which you can glowingly fulfill within an us state. Glowingly fulfill within an us. So that kind of sounds like unity, doesn't it? I want to give you a preview of the next level, which is the fifth level. You realize there's nothing to be afraid of at the fifth level. You find friendships where you could never have done so before. You are beginning to experience the whole spectrum of the present moment, and ego has less and less work to do. You begin to experience your life as one miraculous happening after another. And life is offering you a horn of plenty. And you feel that you live in a friendly world that will always give you enough. That's heaven on earth. To me, that's heaven on earth. So, what does living love involve? What does it ask from us as participants? Three qualities. Empathy. We can see and we know that anything anyone says or does is a way to meet a need. That doesn't mean we agree. That doesn't mean we submit, or it doesn't mean we rebel. We just know, we understand that whatever they're saying or doing is to meet a need. And when we become need literate with our own needs, we'll know what their needs are too, because we all have the same needs. So there's empathy for others, and there's also empathy for oneself, and that's called self-compassion. So I invite you to try a little exercise with me. You don't have to say anything, but just use your memory for that. I invite you to do a self-compassion exercise with me, and there's 3 steps. The first, I want you to think of a situation where you said or did something that you have some regret about. And you don't have to say anything. This is just an internal discovery. So, the first question is, what needs or values of yours were not met by your actions? So, maybe you had a need to contribute, or maybe you had a need for love, or understanding, and that need wasn't met. The second reflection is, what needs did you have at the time that you did what you did? So we're evaluating our actions from value judgment rather than moralistic judgment. What needs and values were not met, and what needs and values were there at the time that were the impetus for you to do what you did? Not saying right or wrong here. And the third step is to consider a future similar situation and how you would act differently considering both sets of needs and values. So that might be something to ponder and maybe even to have some journaling about. But it's a way of loving ourselves and learning from our experience without self-condemnation and without self-judgment. Living love also involves authenticity. Speaking your truth without blaming, without demands, and hearing others without hearing criticism. And third, responsibility and integrity. When there's a situation where we're having conflict, it's important to own our part of the situation. But it's important to observe our actions without blaming or judging ourselves. Because when we do that, we get caught up again in the shame and blame. It's important to honor choice, our own choices and those of others. And our giving is from the heart, rather than from obligation, guilt, duty, or shame. Giving from the heart. It's a very freeing experience, and that's part of living love. So, would you take a few moments and let us pray? Lord of our being, we call upon the powers of love and wisdom this day. We claim their manifestation in our lives by our ability to see the big picture, our ability to forgive both ourselves and others, our ability to understand all the intentions involved, and to observe without blame or shame. We affirm, I am a living, loving expression of God, right here, right now. And we are so grateful, and so it is. Amen. Thank you.